The fluorescent lights in Bernie's diner buzzed like dying insects, casting a sickly yellow glow over the cracked red vinyl booths. At 2:47 a.m., the place was nearly empty, except for a truck driver nursing his fourth coffee and two college kids pretending to study while sharing a single plate of fries. Juliet Warren moved between tables with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd stopped thinking about what her body was doing months ago. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a ponytail that had started neat at the beginning of her shift 12 hours earlier. Now strands escaped around her face, and she didn't bother tucking them back. "More coffee?" she asked the truck driver, pot already tilting toward his mug. He grunted something that might have been yes. She poured and moved on. The diner smelled like grease and burnt coffee and the faint underlying sweetness of maple syrup that never quite washed out of the floors. Juliet had worked here for 3 years, ever since she'd dropped out of nursing school. She knew every stain on every table, every wobble in every chair, every place where the linoleum had cracked and been poorly repaired. Her feet ached in her worn canvas sneakers. The soles were so thin she could feel every uneven patch of floor. Her lower back throbbed from hours of carrying heavy plates and leaning over tables. Her hands were dry and cracked from constant washing and exposure to harsh detergents. She felt nothing about any of it. The bell above the door chimed. A woman walked in with a girl who couldn't have been more than 7, both of them laughing about something. The girl had her hair in 2 braids and wore pajamas under her winter coat, like they'd decided on a midnight adventure. "Can we get pancakes, Mom, with the chocolate chips?" "It's almost 3 in the morning, baby." "That's what makes it an adventure." The mother laughed, and it was such a warm sound that Juliet had to look away. She busied herself wiping down a table that was already clean, her hands moving in small circles that accomplished nothing. Emma had loved midnight pancakes. The memory hit sharp and sudden, the way they always did. Emma, at 14, bawled from chemotherapy, her eyes still bright despite everything. "Julie, let's make pancakes. The nurses are doing rounds. They'll never know." Juliet had smuggled in a hot plate and pancake mix. They'd made a terrible mess in that hospital room, and Emma had only managed 3 bites before the nausea hit, but she'd smiled the entire time. That was 8 months before she died. 3 years ago now. Juliet's hands stilled on the table. She realized she'd been scrubbing the same spot for God knows how long. The truck driver was watching her with mild concern, and the college kids were pointedly not looking in her direction. She forced herself to move, to grab the coffee pot again, to refill mugs that didn't need refilling. By the time her shift ended at 6 in the morning, the sun was just starting to think about rising. The sky held that ugly gray color that wasn't quite night anymore, but couldn't commit to being day. Juliet hung up her apron in the back room, grabbed her coat from a hook that had been broken since before she started working here, and pushed through the back door into the alley. The cold hit immediately. February in the city was brutal, all wind and wet cold that sank into your bones. She should have saved money for a better coat. She should have saved money for a lot of things. Her studio apartment was 14 blocks away. She could take the bus, but that cost $2 she didn't need to spend if her legs still worked. They did, barely, so she walked. The streets were mostly empty at this hour. A few delivery trucks making their morning rounds. A homeless man she recognized, sleeping in his usual doorway, bundled under blankets and cardboard. She'd given her leftover shift meal last week, a burger that had been made wrong and would have been thrown out anyway. Her building was the kind of place that had been nice once, maybe 30 years ago. Now the brick was stained and crumbling in places. The front door didn't lock properly, and the hallway smelled like cabbage and something unidentifiable that might have been coming from the walls themselves. She climbed to the 3rd floor, her legs protesting every step. Unlocked her door, which took 3 tries because the key stuck. Stepped inside and locked it behind her, the deadbolt and the chain and the little door stopper she'd bought at a hardware store for $4. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it. 1 room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. A bathroom so small you could sit on the toilet and wash your hands in the sink at the same time. The radiator clanked and hissed, but only produced heat when it felt like it. Bills were scattered across the counter. Past due notices in red, final warnings, disconnect notices for utilities, which she'd managed to pay at the last second with tips she'd hidden from herself so she wouldn't spend them on food. Juliet dropped her coat on the chair that was supposed to be for dining, but mostly held laundry she hadn't put away. She should shower. She should eat something. She should do 100 things that people who were functioning humans did. Instead, she stood in the middle of her apartment and stared at the photo on the small shelf next to her mattress on the floor. Emma, age 15, 2 months before she died. Someone had brought a therapy dog to the hospital, and Emma was hugging it, her face pressed into its fur, smiling so wide it looked like it might hurt. Juliet was next to her in the photo, and if you looked close, you could see that her smile didn't reach her eyes. She'd already known by then. The doctors hadn't said it out yet, but she'd been in nursing school. She could read charts. She could see what the numbers meant. She'd known her sister was dying, and she hadn't been able to do anything about it. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the photo, like she did most mornings. "I'm so sorry, Em." The photo didn't answer. It never did. Juliet pulled off her shoes and lay down on her mattress without bothering to change clothes. Sleep came in fits and starts, broken by dreams of hospital rooms and beeping machines, and Emma's hand going cold. Hers. She woke at 2:15 in the afternoon to her phone buzzing. Bernie, her manager, his message terse and impersonal. "Need to talk. Come in early tonight." Nothing good ever started with "need to talk." Juliet stared at the ceiling, at the water stain that looked like a face if you squinted, and tried to find the energy to care about whatever fresh disaster was coming. She couldn't quite manage it. 3 days later, Juliet pushed through the diner's back door at exactly 11:34 p.m., her body moving on autopilot. The conversation with Bernie kept replaying in her head like a song she couldn't turn off. Cutting hours, slow business, nothing personal. She'd nodded and smiled and said she understood, because what else could she do? The night air was frigid, cold enough that each breath felt like swallowing glass. She pulled her thin coat tighter and started walking. Usually, she took the main streets home, stuck to the lights and the occasional late-night bodega still open. Tonight, she was too tired to care about the extra 6 blocks. The alley behind Fletcher Street cut straight through to Meridian, would save her 10 minutes at least. She'd walked it before in daylight. How different could it be at night? Pretty different, it turned out. The streetlights on either end didn't reach the middle section, leaving a stretch of darkness broken only by the weak glow from a few apartment windows 3 stories up. Dumpsters lined one side, commercial bins for the restaurants and shops that fronted the main road. The asphalt was cracked and uneven, spotted with ice patches that gleamed dully. Juliet was halfway through when she heard it. A small sound, barely there. Like an animal in distress, or maybe a cat, or maybe nothing at all. She should keep walking. She should mind her business and get home and figure out how to pay rent with fewer shifts. The sound came again. Definitely not a cat. She stopped, her heartbeat picking up in a way that felt both like fear and like something else she hadn't felt in a long time. Hello? Nothing. She took 3 steps toward the dumpsters. Is someone there? A rustle of movement. Then she saw him. A small boy, maybe 5 years old, crouched behind a dumpster like he was trying to become part of the shadows. His dark, curly hair was messy, his expensive-looking coat smudged with dirt. His gray eyes were wide and terrified, fixed on her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. And he was struggling to breathe. Juliet recognized the signs immediately. The shallow, rapid breaths, the way his small chest heaved, the panic in his eyes making it worse, creating a feedback loop where fear caused breathing problems, caused more fear. She dropped to her knees without thinking, her nursing training overriding 3 years of trying to forget everything she'd learned. "Hey, sweetheart. Hey, it's okay. Look at me. Just look at me." The boy's hands clutched at his throat, that universal gesture of "I can't breathe." His lips were starting to pale. Asthma attack, severe one. Where was his inhaler? "Do you have medicine? An inhaler?" She kept her voice calm and soft even as her heart hammered. She checked his pockets quickly, found nothing. Okay, we're going to fix this. I need you to listen to my voice." His eyes locked onto hers. He was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. "We're going to breathe together. Watch my hand." She placed her palm on her own chest, exaggerating each breath so he could see the rise and fall. "In through your nose, slow. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Out through your mouth, slower. Count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. He tried to follow. Failed. Panicked more. That's okay. Try again. You're doing great. In, 2, 3. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. She reached out slowly, telegraphing her movement, and placed her hand gently on his small back. "Feel my hand? When you breathe in, push against my hand. Good. That's so good." It took 4 minutes. 4 minutes of counting and breathing and keeping her voice steady while the boy's color gradually improved and his breathing slowly, painfully slowly, started to even out. By the time his breathing approached normal, he was leaning against her, his small body exhausted from the effort of pulling air into his lungs. "There you go," Juliet whispered. You're okay now." He didn't speak, didn't make any sound at all, except for his breathing. Just gripped her coat with both hands like she was the only solid thing in the world. That was when she heard the footsteps. Multiple sets, heavy boots on asphalt, running. Check behind the dumpsters. North side clear. Keep looking. He couldn't have gone far. The boy's grip on her coat tightened. His whole body went rigid with fresh terror, and his breathing immediately started to deteriorate again. "Shh," Juliet breathed. "Shh, it's okay." But it wasn't okay. Kids didn't hide behind dumpsters and alleys at night unless something was very wrong. Men didn't search for children with that kind of coordination unless something was very wrong. She had maybe 30 seconds before they reached this section of the alley. Juliet looked down at the boy. His gray eyes pleaded with her. He shook his head frantically, a clear message even without words. "Don't let them find me." Every instinct she had screamed at her to grab her bag and walk away. This wasn't her problem. This was clearly dangerous. She could say she never saw him. She could be home in 15 minutes, safe, uninvolved. The boy's hand found hers and squeezed. Emma had held her hand exactly like that, in the hospital, when she was scared, when the pain got too bad, when she needed to know someone was there. Juliet made her decision. She pulled the boy closer, tucking him against her side, keeping her hand on his back to monitor his breathing. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got you." The footsteps were closer now, 20 feet, 15. A beam of light swept across the alley, bright and searching, tactical flashlight, professional. What had she just gotten herself into? The light found them. "Here, I've got them." More footsteps converged, fast and purposeful. Juliet squinted into the lights, her eyes adjusting slowly. She counted 4 men, all wearing dark clothes, all moving with military precision, all carrying guns. Her mouth went dry. The men formed a semicircle around them, blocking any escape route. One spoke into a radio. "Located, sending coordinates." Another, taller than the rest, stepped forward. He was maybe 40, fit, with the kind of awareness that made Juliet think military or police. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the boy." "He's having trouble breathing," Juliet said, and was surprised her voice didn't shake. "He needs medical attention." "We have medical standing by. Step away." The boy's grip on her coat became painful. A small sound escaped him, the first sound he'd made. "Please." "I'm a nurse," she lied. "Close enough. Let me help him." "Ma'am, this is not a negotiation." The tall man moved closer, his hand resting on his weapon. Not threatening exactly, but not threatening either. Juliet's brain finally caught up to what her instincts had been screaming. These weren't kidnappers. They were looking for the boy, yes, but they were organized, professional. They had medical standing by. They called in coordinates, like military operations. Security, private security, which meant the boy was important, which meant whoever he belonged to had serious money and serious resources, which meant she was in serious trouble. Before she could figure out what to do with that information, the energy in the alley shifted. The armed men straightened, their body language changing from alert to deferential. Another set of footsteps, slower, measured. A man stepped into the circle of light, and Juliet's heart stopped. She'd seen his face before, in newspapers, on the local news, always with words like alleged and suspected and organized crime. Vincent Moretti. He was taller in person, maybe 6'3", with dark hair styled back from a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't currently carved from ice. His gray eyes swept the scene, taking in everything in a single glance. His suit probably cost more than her yearly salary. Those gray eyes landed on the boy, and something flickered across his face. Relief and anger and fear all compressed into half a second before the ice returned. Leo. The boy, Leo, didn't let go of Juliet. Vincent's gaze shifted to her, and she felt it like physical weight. He studied her for a long moment, taking in her diner uniform, her cheap coat, her terrified face. "Who are you?" His voice was quiet, controlled, more frightening than if he'd shouted. "Juliet. Juliet Warren. I was just walking home. I heard him. He couldn't breathe." "And you helped him?" It wasn't a question, but she nodded anyway. Vincent's expression didn't change. "Leo, come here." The boy didn't move. "Leo," firmer now. Leo pressed closer to Juliet. His breathing was still elevated, stress threatening to trigger another attack. A woman appeared from behind Vincent, shorter than the men, compact and efficient-looking. She held a small device, an inhaler. "Boss, he needs this." Vincent gestured for her to approach. The woman moved forward, carefully, but when she got within 3 feet, Leo's breathing spiked again. Panic. "Stop," Vincent ordered. The woman froze. They all stood there in a strange tableau. Juliet on her knees, in a dirty alley, a child clinging to her, armed men in a circle, a mafia boss watching with calculating eyes. Vincent crouched down slowly, bringing himself to Juliet's eye level. Up close, she could see the scar along his cheekbone, the exhaustion hidden under the control, the fear he was barely containing. "He hasn't let anyone touch him in 6 months," Vincent said quietly, "since his mother died. Whatever you did, he trusts you." He paused, his jaw tightening. "I need you to come with us." "I can't. I need to get home." That wasn't a request. The car was exactly what Juliet expected from a man like Vincent Moretti. Black, expensive, windows tinted so dark they might as well have been walls. Leather interior that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. Leo sat pressed against her side in the back seat, his small hand still gripping her coat. Vincent sat across from them, his posture relaxed in a way that somehow made him more intimidating. The woman who tried to give Leo the inhaler sat up front with the driver. She'd introduced herself as Maggie, head of security. She hadn't smiled. They'd been driving for 22 minutes. Juliet had counted every single one. "Where are we going?" Her voice sounded too loud in the quiet car. "Somewhere safe," Vincent said. "That's not an answer." His eyes flicked to her face. "No, it's not." The car turned onto a private road. Trees lined both sides, their bare branches reaching overhead like skeletal fingers. The headlights caught a gate ahead, iron, elaborate, the kind that said, "Keep out," in a dozen different ways. It opened as they approached. The mansion appeared gradually through the trees. Juliet had seen houses like this in magazines, on television, in movies about people whose lives were nothing like hers. 3 stories, stone facade, columns flanking the entrance. Windows glowing warmly against the night. It looked like something from another century, preserved and protected while the rest of the world crumbled. "You live here?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. "Yes." Vincent's tone gave away nothing. The car stopped in a circular driveway. Juliet could see more armed men. At least 6, probably more she couldn't spot. All of them moved with the same professional efficiency as the ones in the alley. Maggie opened the door. "This way." Juliet didn't move. Leo didn't move. They sat there like maybe if they stayed still enough, this would all turn out to be some kind of exhaustion-induced hallucination. Vincent stepped out, then turned back. I understand you're frightened, but Leo needs that inhaler, and he needs calm. The longer we sit here, the worse this gets for him. Juliet looked down at the boy. His breathing was elevated again. Not full attack mode, but heading that direction. Vincent was right. Damn him. She took Leo's hand. Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you inside. He came with her, but he didn't let go. The interior of the mansion was just as overwhelming as the exterior. Marble floors, crystal chandelier. A staircase that curved up to the second floor like something out of a period drama. Paintings on the walls that might have been originals. Furniture that looked antique and probably was. Juliet's worn sneakers squeaked on the marble. The sound echoed. This way. Vincent led them through a doorway into a sitting room. More antiques. A fireplace with actual fire burning. Velvet furniture in deep burgundy. Floor-to-ceiling windows covered by heavy curtains. Juliet sat on the edge of a sofa that was probably worth more than every possession she'd ever owned combined. Leo climbed into her lap without hesitation. Vincent remained standing. Maggie positioned herself by the door, casual, blocking the exit. The inhaler, Juliet said. He should use it now. 2 puffs. Wait 30 seconds between each one. Maggie looked at Vincent. He nodded. She produced the inhaler and approached slowly. Leo tensed, but Juliet kept her hand on his back, kept her voice soft. It's okay. This will help. Remember how we practiced breathing? This makes it easier. It took some coaxing, but Leo eventually accepted the inhaler. Juliet administered it, counting out the seconds, watching his color improve. The whole time, Vincent watched them with an expression she couldn't read. When Leo's breathing had stabilized, Vincent spoke. Maggie, check on the perimeter. Make sure the route is secured. Boss, I should stay. Now. Maggie hesitated, then left. Her footsteps faded down the hallway. Vincent moved to the bar cart in the corner, poured something amber into a crystal glass. He didn't offer her any. How did you know what to do? I told you, I'm a nurse. No, you're not. He took a sip. You were a nursing student, 3rd year, Johns Hopkins program. You dropped out 3 years ago, haven't completed your degree. So I'll ask again. How did you know what to do? The blood drained from Juliet's face. How do you... I had someone run a background check while we were driving. Juliet Marie Warren, 26 years old, current residence, studio apartment on Meridian Street, employed at Bernie's Diner for 3 years. Before that, nursing school. Before that, community college. Before that, Wellington High School. He paused. Your sister died, Emma Warren, leukemia. You were her primary caretaker during treatment. Juliet's hands tightened on Leo. The invasion of privacy should have made her angry. Instead, she just felt exposed, stripped down to her worst moments for this stranger to examine. You had no right. I have every right. Vincent set down his glass with a soft click. My son disappeared from a secure vehicle during a route change. He was missing for 43 minutes. In those 43 minutes, anything could have happened. Then I find him with a stranger in an alley. I have not just the right, but the obligation to know exactly who that stranger is. I'm nobody. I was just trying to help. You're not nobody. He moved closer, and Juliet fought the urge to lean back. You knew exactly what to do when my son couldn't breathe. You kept him calm. You protected him when my men arrived, even though you were terrified. That's not nobody. Leo had gone still in her arms, listening, understanding more than they probably realized. Vincent crouched down in front of them, the same way he had in the alley, his gray eyes, so like his son's, fixed on her face. Why did you drop out of nursing school? That's none of your business. Everything about you is my business now. The certainty in his voice sent ice down her spine. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've seen my son. You've seen my home. You've seen my security. You know things about my family that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. He tilted his head slightly. It means you can't just walk away, Juliet. The room suddenly felt very small, very locked. You can't keep me here. Can't I? This is kidnapping. This is protection. His voice never rose, never sharpened. Somehow that made it worse. You helped my son. I'm grateful. But gratitude doesn't erase reality. There are people who would pay considerable amounts for information about Leo's vulnerabilities, about when and where he has medical emergencies, about who he trusts. I wouldn't tell anyone. I don't even know anyone to tell. I believe you. I do. Vincent stood, putting distance between them again. But belief and certainty are different things. I didn't build what I have by trusting belief. Juliet's mind raced. The locked door, the armed guards, the isolated location. So what? I'm a prisoner now because I helped a child? No, you're a guest, until we figure out a more permanent arrangement. Permanent? Before Vincent could answer, Leo's hand patted her arm. She looked down. He was watching her face with those solemn gray eyes. He shook his head. A clear message. Don't be scared. Something in her chest cracked open. This child, who'd been through God knows what, who couldn't breathe properly, who hadn't spoken in 6 months, according to his father, was trying to comfort her. Why did he run? Juliet asked quietly. In the alley? Why was he hiding? Vincent's jaw tightened. We were changing routes, security protocol. Leo doesn't handle changes well. He panicked, opened the car door at a red light, and ran before anyone could stop him. You didn't chase him? We did. He's fast when he's frightened, and the streets were crowded. We lost sight of him for... Vincent stopped, breathed. When he continued, his voice was more controlled. For 8 minutes, the longest 8 minutes of my life. The admission surprised her. This man, who commanded armed soldiers and lived in a mansion and had connections to things Juliet didn't want to think about, was just a father who'd lost his child. Just a father whose child was sitting in her lap, breathing steadily, trusting her. What kind of permanent arrangement? She asked. Vincent studied her for a long moment. We'll discuss that in the morning. For now, Maggie will show you to a room. You'll stay here tonight. I have work tomorrow. I'll handle it. You can't just... I can, and I will. He moved toward the door. One more thing, Juliet. Don't try to leave. My men have orders to prevent that, for your protection as much as mine. No. He left before she could argue. Juliet sat there in the silent room, in a mansion that might as well be a prison, with a 5-year-old boy sleeping against her chest. She thought about Emma, about how helpless she'd felt watching her sister die, about how she'd promised herself she'd never feel that helpless again. Apparently, the universe had other plans. Maggie returned 17 minutes later. She stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. I'll show you to your room. Juliet looked down at Leo. He'd fallen asleep against her chest, his breathing deep and even. His dark curls were soft under her chin. I don't want to wake him. You won't have to. I'll take you to his room first. They moved through the mansion in silence. Juliet tried to memorize the route, counting doorways and turns, but after the 3rd hallway, she gave up. The place was enormous. Deliberately confusing, maybe. Or maybe that was paranoia talking. Leo's room was on the 2nd floor. Maggie opened the door, and Juliet stepped into what looked like a children's museum. Toys organized on shelves, books arranged by size, a bed shaped like a race car, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a mural of superheroes covering one wall. Everything a child could want. Everything except what he actually needed. Juliet laid Leo down carefully, pulling a blanket over him. He stirred but didn't wake. His small hand reached out, searching for something. She tucked his stuffed bear, some kind of worn brown thing, into his arms. He settled. This way, Maggie said from the door. The room they gave Juliet was 3 doors down, smaller than Leo's, but still larger than her entire apartment. A queen bed with white linens, matching furniture in pale wood, an attached bathroom visible through an open door, windows overlooking the grounds, though heavy curtains were already drawn. There are clothes in the closet, Maggie said. Should be your size. Bathroom is stocked. Don't open the windows. Don't leave this floor without escort. Or what? Maggie's expression didn't change. Or we'll have a problem. Get some sleep. The boss wants to talk at 8. She left, closing the door behind her. Juliet heard the lock click. So much for being a guest. Juliet stood in the center of the room, her mind spinning. This was insane. She'd been kidnapped by the Mafia because she'd helped a kid breathe. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Except they just had. She checked her pockets for her phone. Gone. Of course it was gone. They'd taken it in the car, smooth and professional, while she'd been focused on Leo. The windows were locked from the outside. The door was locked from the outside. The attached bathroom had no other exits. She was trapped in luxury, which was still trapped. Juliet sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was absurdly comfortable. The sheets probably had a thread count higher than her credit score. She wanted to hate it. Instead, she just felt tired. Her shift at the diner had started 19 hours ago. She'd been awake for almost 24. Her body ached. Her mind felt fuzzy at the edges. She should be planning an escape. She should be fighting this. She should be doing something other than sitting here accepting it. But Leo's face kept appearing in her mind. Those gray eyes, that desperate grip on her coat, the way he'd tried to comfort her, even though he was the one who needed comfort. Emma used to do that too. Even when she was dying, even when the pain was unbearable, she'd squeeze Juliet's hand and smile and say, "I'm okay, Julie. Don't worry." Juliet lay back on the bed without bothering to change clothes or get under the covers. Sleep came faster than expected, dark and dreamless. She woke to knocking. Disoriented, she sat up. Sunlight streamed through gaps in the curtains. The clock on the nightstand read 7:43 a.m. "Miss Warren," Maggie's voice through the door, "you have 15 minutes." Juliet stumbled to the bathroom, showered quickly in water that had perfect pressure and unlimited heat, luxuries she'd almost forgotten existed. Found clothes in the closet like Maggie had promised, jeans that fit perfectly, a soft gray sweater, even underwear and socks, all in her size. The level of preparation was disturbing. At exactly 8 o'clock, Maggie unlocked the door. "Follow me." They went downstairs to a different room, an office clearly, dark wood desk, leather chairs, bookshelves lined with actual books, not just decorative spines, windows overlooking gardens that probably looked beautiful when they weren't dead from winter. Vincent sat behind the desk. He'd changed clothes since last night, now wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like he'd slept well, probably had. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Juliet sat because standing felt like it would give him more power somehow. "Where's Leo?" "Still sleeping. He had a difficult night." Vincent folded his hands on the desk. "We need to discuss your situation." "My kidnapping, you mean?" "Your employment." That stopped her. "What?" Vincent opened a folder on his desk. "According to my information, you work 60-hour weeks at minimum wage. Your apartment costs $800 a month, which is 70% of your income. You're 3 months behind on student loans, 2 months behind on credit cards. You've been donating plasma twice a week for extra money." He looked up. "Am I missing anything?" He'd flooded Juliet's face. Having her financial disaster laid out so clinically was worse than any threat. "That's none of your business." "I'm making it my business. Here's my offer." Vincent pulled out a document. "Live here. Take care of Leo. Help him manage his asthma. Work on his emotional recovery. $5,000 a week. All expenses paid. Health insurance included. Your apartment will be maintained as a cover. All bills paid." Juliet's brain stuttered. 5,000? A week, yes. That's insane. That's what my son's well-being is worth to me. Vincent slid the document across the desk. "You have nursing training. You know pediatric care. Most importantly, Leo trusts you. That's irreplaceable." "I'm not a therapist. I'm not even a nurse. I dropped out, remember?" "You aid. So yourself. You kept my son calm during a medical emergency. You protected him when you had every reason to run. You have the skills. The degree is just paper. Juliet stared at the contract. The numbers swam in front of her eyes. $5,000 a week. That was more than she made in 3 months at the diner. That was student loans paid off. That was credit cards cleared. That was breathing room she hadn't had in 3 years. That was also selling herself to a criminal. What if I say no? Vincent's expression didn't change. Then we have a problem. You know too much to simply release. I'd have to find another solution. Another solution like what? Do you really want me to answer that? The room felt colder. You'd kill me for helping your son? I'd prefer not to. Vincent leaned back in his chair. You seem like a good person, Juliet. You've had a difficult few years. You're surviving on willpower and plasma donations. I'm offering you a way out. A legitimate way to earn money, help a child who desperately needs it, and be safe. Safe from what? From whatever life you're currently living. From poverty, from working yourself to death in a diner. He paused. From the guilt of not being able to save your sister. Juliet stood up so fast the chair scraped backward. Don't you dare. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm stating facts. Vincent's voice remained level. You carry that guilt everywhere. It's why you helped Leo even though it was dangerous. It's why you're still here instead of screaming for help. You couldn't save Emma, but maybe you can save him. The words hit like physical blows. Juliet's hands shook. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Vincent stood as well, came around the desk. Not threatening, just present. I know you're barely surviving. I know you go to your sister's grave every Sunday, even though it costs bus fare you can't afford. I know you haven't spoken to your parents in 2 years because they blamed you for her death. I know you're drowning, Juliet. I'm throwing you a rope. A rope with strings attached? Every rope has strings. At least mine are honest. Juliet looked at the contract again. The numbers, the terms. 6 months minimum commitment. Room and board provided. Duties clearly outlined. Termination clause that made her stomach turn. If she left before 6 months, she'd owe back payment for expenses. A golden cage with explicit locks. What if Leo doesn't keep responding to me? What if this was just a one-time thing? Then we'll revisit the arrangement. But I don't think it was one time. Vincent's great eyes held hers. He's been unable to connect with anyone since his mother died. Nannies, therapists, doctors, all of them failed. You succeeded in an alley in under 10 minutes. That's not luck. Why doesn't he talk? Trauma. He witnessed his mother's accident, car crash. He hasn't spoken since. Doctors say there's no physical reason. It's psychological. Juliet thought about Leo's hand in hers, his desperate grip, the way he'd tried to comfort her when she was scared. And you think I can help with that? I think you're the only person who's reached him in 6 months. That's worth $5,000 a week to me. It was manipulation, clear and obvious. Vincent was using her guilt about Emma, her financial desperation, her instinct to help. All of it wrapped together into an offer she couldn't afford to refuse. The worst part was knowing it was manipulation didn't make it less effective. If I do this, Juliet said slowly, I'm not your prisoner. I'm an employee. That means respect. That means autonomy within reason. That means treating me like a person, not a tool. Agreed. And I want to finish my nursing degree. Online classes, you pay for it. Vincent's eyebrow raised slightly. Done. And She stopped, tried to think what else she could demand, what else she had leverage for. Came up empty. Vincent offered a pen. Anything else? Juliet took the pen, looked at the contract one more time, thought about her apartment with the broken lock and unpaid bills, thought about the diner and Bernie's apologetic face cutting her hours, thought about donating plasma twice a week until she was dizzy, thought about Emma's grave and flowers she couldn't afford, thought about Leo's gray eyes. She signed. The first week felt like living in a museum where she wasn't supposed to touch anything. Leo watched her constantly, from doorways, around corners, through the gap in his bedroom door when she walked past. He never came close, just observed with those solemn gray eyes that reminded her too much of his father. Juliet tried everything she could think of, reading books aloud in the library, hoping he'd come listen, setting up art supplies in the sunroom, baking cookies in the massive kitchen that made her apartment's hot plate look like a toy. Leo watched it all from a distance, interested but unwilling to bridge the gap. Maggie explained the household rules on day 2. West Wing was off limits, Vincent's private offices and business areas. Don't answer the door, don't go outside without escort, don't ask questions about the men who came and went at odd hours, voices tense and urgent behind closed doors. Juliet learned the rhythms. Vincent left most mornings at 9, returned anywhere between 6 and midnight. Sometimes he came back with blood on his knuckles he'd wash off in the kitchen sink like it was nothing. Sometimes men in expensive suits arrived for meetings that lasted hours. Sometimes the house went completely silent, except for the sound of Maggie and her security team doing perimeter checks. At night, Juliet lay in her too comfortable bed and tried not to think about what she'd signed up for. Tried not to wonder what Vincent actually did. Tried not to calculate how much money was piling up in the account he'd set up for her. Numbers that felt imaginary. On day 8, everything changed. It was 9:33 at night. Juliet had given up trying to engage Leo for the day and was in her room researching childhood trauma responses on the laptop Vincent had provided. Fully monitored, but better than nothing. A sound cut through the quiet. Small, broken, crying. She was in the hallway before her brain caught up to her. The sound came from Leo's room. She knocked softly. "Leo? Sweetheart, are you okay?" The crying got worse. Panicked, struggling to breathe. Julia didn't wait for permission. She opened the door. Leo was tangled in his sheets, thrashing, tears streaming down his face. Nightmare. Bad one. His breathing was already deteriorating, panic and asthma feeding each other. Hey, I'm here." Juliet crossed to the bed quickly. "Leo, wake up. You're safe." His eyes opened but didn't see her, still trapped in whatever horror his mind was showing him. Juliet sat on the edge of the bed. "Leo, look at me. Feel the bed under you. Feel my hand." She touched his arm gently. "You're in your room. You're safe. I'm here." Slowly, his eyes focused. Recognition filtered through the panic. His small body was shaking so hard the bed frame rattled. "Can I hold you?" Juliet asked softly. Leo stared at her for 3 heartbeats. 4. Then he launched himself forward, wrapping his arms around her neck so tight she could barely breathe. Juliet held him, rocked slightly, counted his breaths until they started to even out. "That's it. You're okay. I've got you." He cried into her shoulder for 10 minutes. She just held him, one hand on his back, the other stroking his hair, murmuring the same things she used to say to Emma. "It's okay. You're safe. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." When the crying finally subsided, Leo stayed pressed against her. His small hands gripped her shirt. After a moment, she felt him relax slightly. "Want me to stay?" she whispered. He nodded against her shoulder. Juliet adjusted so they were both lying down, Leo tucked against her side. She kept one arm around him, her hand rubbing small circles on his back. "I used to have bad dreams too," she said quietly. "After my sister died, want to know what helped?" He didn't respond, but she felt him listening. "I'd think about good things, like the time we went to the beach and she found a starfish, or when we made snow angels and she laughed so hard she couldn't breathe. The happy things. They're still there, even when the sad things feel bigger." She paused. "What's a happy thing you remember?" Leo's hand moved, tapped his chest, then pointed at her. Juliet's throat tightened. "Right now? This is your happy thing?" He nodded. "Mine too," she whispered. Leo fell asleep 20 minutes later. Juliet stayed, afraid to move and wake him. She stared at the glow-in-the-dark stars on his ceiling and thought about how easy it would be to love this child, how dangerous that was. She must have dozed off, because the next thing she knew, gray dawn light filtered through the curtains. Leo was still asleep, his breathing steady and even, and Vincent was standing in the doorway. Juliet froze. She had no idea how long he'd been there or what he'd seen. His expression was unreadable, as always, but something in his eyes looked different. Softer, maybe. Or maybe she was imagining it. Vincent crossed the room silently. looked down at his son sleeping peacefully for probably the first time in months. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. He hasn't slept through the night since the accident. He had a nightmare. I heard him crying. So did I. I was on my way. I was on my way when I heard you. Vincent's jaw tightened. I haven't been able to comfort him. He won't let me close when he's like that. The pain in those words was carefully controlled but unmistakable. Juliet saw it clearly now, the things she'd been trying not to see. Vincent Moretti was terrifying and powerful, and probably responsible for things she didn't want to know about. He was also a father, watching his son suffer and unable to help. "He's getting better," Juliet said. "This is progress. Because of you. Because he's ready. I'm just here." Vincent's eyes met hers. "No, you're more than that. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Keep doing it." He left as quietly as he'd come. Juliet lay there watching Leo sleep and wondering when this place had started feeling less like a prison and more like something else she couldn't name. The breakthrough continued. After that night, Leo started staying close. Not constantly, but in small increments. He'd sit on the floor while she read, stand next to her while she made breakfast, let her check his breathing without pulling away. By week 3, he was following her everywhere, a small shadow with dark curls and gray eyes, still silent but present. Communicating through gestures and expressions, Juliet learned to read like a language. She started teaching him proper breathing exercises, made it into a game. In through your nose like you're smelling cookies, out through your mouth like you're blowing out birthday candles. Leo would mimic her movements, serious and focused, his small face scrunched in concentration. The inhaler became less scary. Juliet let him hold it, examine it, understand it wasn't the enemy. This is your helper. When your lungs get confused, this reminds them how to work right. They drew pictures. Leo's were violent at first. Lots of black and red, cars crashing, stick figures crying. Juliet didn't comment, just kept providing paper and crayons and sitting beside him. Gradually, the pictures changed. More colors, houses, trees, people holding hands. Vincent started joining them in the evenings. Awkward at first, like he didn't know how to exist in his own home without business to conduct. He'd sit in the chair near the fireplace while Juliet read to Leo, both of them curled on the couch. He never interrupted, just listened, his gray eyes tracking every interaction. Week 4, day 3, Juliet found Vincent in the kitchen at 7 in the morning. Unusual. He was normally gone by then. "Coffee?" he offered, already pouring a second cup. "Thanks." She took it, wrapped her hands around the warmth. "You're here late." "Early. Depends on perspective." Vincent leaned against the counter. He looked tired, she realized, more than usual. "I wanted to ask, how did you learn to do this? Help him, I mean." Juliet thought about Emma, the long hospital stays, the terror and pain, the small ways she'd learned to provide comfort. "My sister was sick for 2 years before she died. You learn things. How to distract from pain. How to make scary medical stuff less scary." Extraordinary. How to be present even when you can't fix anything. "You were 23 when she died." 23 and a half. Not that it matters. "It matters." Vincent's voice was quiet. "That's young to watch someone you love die. Too young. There's no good age for it." "No, I suppose not." He was silent for a moment. "Leo's mother, Rebecca, she was taking him to school, routine drive. A truck ran a red light. She died on impact. Leo was in the back seat, untouched physically, watched the whole thing." Juliet's chest tightened. "I'm sorry." He screamed at first, for hours. Then one day he just stopped making sounds at all. Doctors said it was psychological protection, his mind trying to shield him from processing what happened. Vincent's knuckles were white around his coffee mug. "I've tried everything. Specialists, therapists, nothing worked. Then you show up and within a week he's sleeping through the night. It's not me, it's timing. He was ready." "Don't diminish what you've done." Vincent's gray eyes fixed on her face. "You gave me my son back. That's not nothing." Before Juliet could respond, small footsteps sounded in the hallway. Leo appeared in the doorway, hair messy from sleep, wearing Superman pajamas. His eyes found Juliet first, checking. She smiled. "Morning, sweetheart." Leo padded over and leaned against her leg. His gaze shifted to Vincent. Something passed between father and son, some wordless communication. Then Leo reached out one small hand. Vincent went very still. "Leo?" Leo kept his hand extended, waiting. Vincent crossed the space between them and took his son's hand. Leo's other hand was still gripping Juliet's shirt. For a moment, the three of them stood connected in the quiet kitchen, morning light streaming through the windows. Leo looked up at Juliet, then at Vincent. His expression was serious, considering. Then he did something extraordinary. He pulled their hands together, placed Vincent's hand over Juliet's, kept his small hands on top of both. A family. He was making them a family. Juliet's breath caught. Vincent's expression cracked, just for a second, showing something raw and vulnerable before the control returned. His hand tightened around hers. "Yeah, buddy," Vincent said, his voice rough. "Yeah, okay." Week 7 started with normalcy that should have been a warning. Juliet woke at 7:30, showered, found Leo already in the kitchen watching Maggie make pancakes. Vincent had left early for meetings. The day stretched ahead with comfortable routine, breathing exercises, reading time, maybe a walk in the gardens if the weather held. She should have known better. Cameron Moretti appeared at 9:45. Juliet had seen him twice before. Vincent's younger brother, who smiled too much and watched too carefully. He was handsome in a way Vincent wasn't, all charm and easy confidence, where Vincent was control and sharp edges. "Morning," Cameron said, strolling into the library where Juliet and Leo were reading. "Vincent asked me to check in, make sure you two are doing okay." Leo's hand tightened on Juliet's arm. Not fear exactly, but discomfort. "We're fine. When will Vincent be back?" "Late. Business in the city." Cameron sat in Vincent's usual chair without invitation. "Heard you've been working miracles with the kid. That's impressive." "Just doing my job." "Right, your job." His blue eyes studied her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "Must be strange living here, playing house with someone like Vincent." "I'm helping Leo recover, that's all." "Sure, that's all." Cameron's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You're good for him, for both of them. Vincent's been different since you arrived, distracted." Something in his tone raised alarms. Distracted how? Softer. Making decisions based on emotion instead of logic. That's dangerous in our world. Cameron leaned forward. "But you wouldn't know about that world, would you? Sweet girl from nowhere, stumbling into things she doesn't understand." Leo made a small sound. His breathing had picked up. Juliet stood, pulling Leo with her. "I think we're done here. Leo needs his rest." "Relax, I'm just talking." Cameron stood too. His smile sharpened. "Vincent left me in charge while he's gone. I'm family. You're the hired help. So when I say I'd like to spend time with Leo, that's what happens." Juliet's pulse hammered. Something was wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. "Leo doesn't want that. Look at him." Cameron glanced at his nephew. Leo had pressed himself against Juliet's side, his small body rigid with tension. "He needs to get over this shy phase. Come here, Leo." Leo shook his head frantically. "Leo," Cameron's voice hardened. "Come, here." He doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to. Juliet put herself between them. Vincent wouldn't. Vincent isn't here. The lights went out. Complete darkness. Then emergency lighting kicked in. Dim red glow that turned everything into shadows and sharp angles. "What?" Juliet started. The explosion cut her off. East Wing. The sound massive and concussive, rattling windows and shaking the floor. Maggie's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding from somewhere in the house. "Breach, east entrance, all units respond." Gunfire erupted. Distant, but getting closer. Juliet's training kicked in before her fear could freeze her. She dropped to her knees, pulled Leo close. "Stay low, stay with me." More gunfire, shouting, running footsteps. Cameron was standing perfectly still. No panic, no surprise. Just watching. Juliet's blood went cold. "You knew." Smart girl. Cameron pulled a gun from inside his jacket, not pointing it at them, but the threat was clear. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me Leo. I'm going to take him somewhere safe. You're going to stay here and keep your mouth shut." "Absolutely not. This isn't a negotiation." Maggie burst through the door, weapon drawn, blood on her face from a cut above her eye. Russo's men, at least 12, they're pushing through the east wing. She stopped, saw Cameron with the gun. Her weapon swung toward him. "What are you doing?" "My job." Cameron's gun came up faster. He fired. Maggie dove behind a bookshelf. The shot splintered wood where her head had been. "Get them to the panic room, now!" Juliet didn't wait. She scooped Leo into her arms and ran. The panic room was in the west wing. Vincent had shown her during the house tour. Down the hall, through the sitting room, behind the false wall in the study. Leo was hyperventilating against her neck. She could feel his lungs struggling, panic crushing his airways. "Breathe with me, sweetheart. In, 2, 3. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. More gunfire behind them, Maggie buying them time. Juliet's mind raced. Cameron had betrayed them. Cameron had let these people in, which meant the panic room might not be safe either if he knew where it was. But she had no choice. She found the study, found the trigger for the false wall. It slid open, revealing a steel door with a keypad. Vincent had given her the code her first week, just in case, he'd said. She punched in the numbers. The door opened. The panic room was small, steel walls, shelves with supplies, medical kit, weapons, a phone hardlined to somewhere. Leo was shaking so hard he could barely breathe. Juliet set him down, grabbed the medical kit, found the inhaler. 2 puffs. Come on, baby, 2 puffs. He tried, failed. His lips were starting to pale. Again, "You can do this. 1 more time." 1 puff. 2. His breathing eased slightly, but not enough. The panic was too strong, overriding the medication. Juliet pulled him into her lap, put his hand on her chest. "Feel my breathing. Match it. In, out. In, out." 5 minutes of counting and breathing and keeping her voice calm while gunfire echoed through the house. Finally, Leo's breathing started to stabilize. Still elevated, still dangerous, but survivable. The phone on the wall rang. Juliet stared at it. It rang again. She grabbed it. "Hello?" "Juliet." Vincent's voice, tight with controlled fury. "Are you and Leo safe?" "We're in the panic room. Vincent, Cameron..." "I know. Maggie got word out. I'm 10 minutes away. Stay there. Don't open the door for anyone but me or Maggie. Do you understand? Leo's having an attack. Bad one. The inhaler isn't enough." Vincent swore viciously. "His spare inhaler is in his bathroom cabinet. I can't leave him to get it." "Then you're going to have to keep him breathing until I get there. Can you do that?" Juliet looked at Leo. His gray eyes, so much like his father's, watched her with complete trust despite his terror. "Yes." "Good. 10 minutes. I'm coming." The line went dead. Juliet counted every second. She breathed with Leo, kept his panic from spiraling, monitored his color and his pulse and the sound of his lungs fighting for air. At minute 7, his lips started turning blue. No, come on, Leo. Stay with me." She adjusted him, trying to open his airways more. "Vincent's coming. Your dad's coming. Just hold on." His eyes were glazing, not enough oxygen reaching his brain. Juliet made a decision she knew was insane. "I'll be right back. 30 seconds. Count to 30. I'll be back." She laid him on the floor in recovery position, ran to the door, opened it a crack. The hallway was empty. Gunfire still echoed from the east wing, but nothing close. She ran. Leo's bathroom, cabinet, there. The spare inhaler. She grabbed it and turned. A man stood in the doorway. Not one of Vincent's men. Russo's soldier, weapon raised, looking as surprised to see her as she was to see him. They stared at each other for half a heartbeat. Juliet threw the first thing she could reach, a glass soap dispenser. It hit his face. He stumbled. She ran at him, using every ounce of self-defense training from her hospital rotations. Knee to the groin, elbow to the face when he doubled over. He went down. She grabbed his dropped weapon with shaking hands, had no idea how to use it, ran anyway. Back to the panic room. Leo was exactly where he'd left him, gasping, tears streaming down his face. I'm here. She administered the inhaler. 1 puff, 2, 3 for good measure. Leo's breathing eased, slowly, too slowly, but easing. Juliet locked the door and held him, blood on her hands from somewhere. Glass cuts, probably. She couldn't feel them. The gunfire stopped. In the sudden silence, she could hear footsteps, multiple people, coming closer. She grabbed the weapon she'd taken, held it pointed at the door, even though her hands were shaking so hard she'd probably miss anything she aimed at. The door handle turned. Locked. "Juliet, it's me. Vincent." She opened the door. He stood there in tactical gear, weapon in hand. Blood splattered across his face that probably wasn't his. His eyes found Leo first, checking, then moved to her. Saw the weapon, the blood, the cuts on her hands. "You left the panic room." Not angry, just stating fact. He needed the inhaler. He was dying. Vincent's jaw tightened. He stepped inside, closed the door, took the weapon from her shaking hands, knelt beside Leo, and gathered his son into his arms. "You're okay. You're safe now. I've got you." Leo clung to his father, still struggling to breathe, but alive. Vincent's eyes met Juliet's over Leo's head. "You saved him." "I almost got him killed. If that man had... But he didn't. You did what you had to do." Vincent stood, Leo still in his arms. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Stay close. It's not over yet." He was right. It wasn't over. They still had to find Cameron. Vincent's men had secured the mansion by the time they emerged from the panic room. Bodies were being removed. Russo's soldiers, all of them. 3 of Vincent's security team were injured, but alive. Maggie had a gash above her eye that would need stitches, but was already barking orders like nothing had happened. Cameron was gone. "Slipped out during the firefight," Maggie reported, her voice tight with fury. "Had an exit planned. We found communications equipment in his room. He's been feeding Russo information for months." Vincent's expression went completely blank, the kind of blank that was more terrifying than rage. He still held Leo, who had finally fallen asleep from sheer exhaustion, his small body limp against his father's chest. "How long to find him?" Vincent asked. "Enough." "Already tracking. He went to a Russo safe house on the waterfront. We have eyes on it." "Good." Vincent looked at Juliet. She was sitting on the couch, hands bandaged by one of the security team, still wearing clothes covered in blood and dust. "You need rest. I need answers." Her voice was steadier than she felt. Why did Cameron do this? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. "Maggie, take Leo to the secure room upstairs. Stay with him." Maggie took the sleeping child carefully. "Boss, I'll handle it. Go." When they were alone, Vincent poured himself a drink, downed it, poured another. "My father built this family from nothing. When he died 8 years ago, everyone expected Cameron to take over. He was the charming one, the one people liked. But my father chose me, left everything to me. Cameron got a position as second, but not the crown. So this is about jealousy? It's about power, about Cameron believing he deserved something he never earned." Vincent's knuckles were white around the glass. Rebecca's accident wasn't an accident. We found proof in Cameron's communications. He paid someone to cause that crash. Thought if Leo died too, I'd be too broken to lead. He could step in, take over while I grieved. The horror of it stole Juliet's breath. He killed Leo's mother, tried to kill Leo. Yes. And tonight? Tonight was his second attempt. Partner with Russo, eliminate me during the attack, take control of the family with Russo's backing. Leo was collateral damage he was willing to accept. Vincent's voice was eerily calm. Too calm. My brother tried to murder my son. Twice. Juliet understood what that calm meant, what Vincent was going to do. "You're going to kill him." "Yes." "Vincent, don't." He cut her off, his gray eyes finally showing emotion, rage, grief, betrayal, all of it burning. "Don't tell me there's another way. Don't tell me about mercy or forgiveness or law. He killed Rebecca. He tried to kill Leo. He put you in danger. There is no other way. I'm not going to tell you not to." Juliet stood, her legs shaky but holding. "I'm going to tell you that Leo will have questions eventually. When he's ready to talk, when he processes all of this, he'll ask what happened to Uncle Cameron. And whatever answer you give him, you'll have to live with it. He'll have to live with it." Vincent stared at her. "What would you have me do?" "I don't know. I just know that Leo has lost so much already. His mother, his voice, his sense of safety. If he loses you too, to guilt or prison or becoming something you're not, then Cameron wins anyway. I'm already something I'm not. I'm a criminal, Juliet. I've killed before. I'll kill again. That's who I am. You're also a father. A good one. That's who Leo needs you to be. The silence stretched between them. Vincent looked at his hands, probably seeing blood that soap would never quite wash away. He's my brother. I know. We grew up together, shared everything. I trusted him with my life, my son's life, and Vincent's voice cracked, just slightly, just enough. How do I come back from that? I don't know if you do. I just know Leo needs you, not the version of you that Cameron's betrayal creates, the version that reads bedtime stories and learns breathing exercises and tries so hard to be gentle even when everything in you wants to be violent. Vincent set down his glass. Come with me. What? To the safe house. I need you there. He stopped, started again. I need to make sure I don't become the thing Cameron thinks I am. You keep me honest, so come with me. It was insane. Going to a confrontation between Mafia families, watching whatever was about to happen. The smart thing would be to stay here, stay safe, stay separate from the darkest parts of Vincent's world. But Leo's face kept appearing in her mind. His trust, his progress, his need for his father to come back whole. Okay, Juliet said. I'll come. The safe house was exactly what she expected. Abandoned warehouse, waterfront location, the kind of place where bad things happened and no one heard screaming. Vincent's men had surrounded it, professional, efficient. They'd already extracted Cameron, had him in the center of the empty space, hands zip-tied behind his back, kneeling on concrete. Cameron looked up when Vincent entered. His charming smile was gone, replaced by something bitter and hateful. Brother, come to finish it? Vincent walked forward slowly. Juliet stayed near the door, far enough away but close enough to see everything. Why? Vincent's voice echoed in the empty space. I gave you everything. Position, money, respect. Why wasn't it enough? Because it was always yours to give. I never had anything of my own. Always Vincent's brother, Vincent's second. Never just Cameron. He spit blood on the concrete. You got everything. Father's approval, the family. Rebecca loved you, even though I saw her first. You didn't even want the life, and you got it anyway. So you killed her? Tried to kill my son? I did what I had to do, what you never had the spine for. Cameron's blue eyes, so different from Vincent's, blazed with resentment. You're weak, always have been, too soft, too concerned with honor and rules. I would have made this family stronger. Vincent pulled his weapon. The sound of the slide racking echoed like thunder. Any last words? Cameron laughed. Actually laughed. Do it. Prove me right. Show everyone what you really are. A killer. Just like father. Just like me. Vincent's hand was steady, his finger on the trigger. Juliet could see the war happening behind his eyes. Justice versus vengeance. The man he was versus the man his world demanded he be. Vincent. Juliet's voice cut through the tension. He didn't look at her. Leo needs his father, not an executioner. His father. He tried to kill my son. I know, and he should pay for that. But not like this. Not because he's goading you into it. Not in a way that makes you what he says you are. Vincent's jaw tightened. The weapon didn't waver. Then how? Let the law handle it. Real law. Federal prosecutors have been trying to build cases against the Russo family for years. Give them Cameron. Give them everything he knows. Let him rot in prison, knowing he failed. Knowing you were strong.
Not enough to not become him. The law? Cameron spat. Are you serious? Vincent Moretti, criminal kingpin, suddenly believes in law and order? Shut up, Vincent said quietly. You don't get to talk anymore. He lowered the weapon. Not much, just slightly. Juliet held her breath. Maggie, Vincent said, contact the federal prosecutor. What's her name? The one who's been sniffing around the Russo operations. Morrison, Amanda Morrison. Contact her. Tell her we have information about the Russo family, a witness willing to provide evidence. In exchange, certain considerations for cooperation. Vincent's eyes never left Cameron. My brother is going to spend the rest of his life in a cell. He's going to watch while I rebuild everything he tried to destroy. He's going to know he failed. That's a better punishment than a bullet. Cameron's face went pale. You can't. Vincent, please. They'll kill me in prison. Russo has people everywhere. I know. Probably should have thought of that before you betrayed your family. Vincent holstered his weapon. You're dead to me, Cameron. What happens next is just details. He turned and walked toward Juliet. Didn't look back. They were almost to the door when the gunshot rang out. Vincent spun, weapon drawn. But Cameron wasn't shooting at them. One of Russo's men, hidden in the rafters, had taken the shot meant for Vincent. Hit Juliet instead. She felt the impact before the pain. Center mass. Knocked her backward. She hit the ground hard. Vincent was shouting, returning fire. The sound of the hidden shooter falling from the rafters. Then Vincent was there, his hands pressing against her abdomen where blood was spreading dark and warm. Stay with me, Juliet, stay with me. Medic, I need a medic now. She tried to focus on his face. Those gray eyes, panicked in a way she'd never seen. Leo, she managed. Take care of Leo. You're going to take care of him. You're not dying. Do you hear me? You don't get to die. The world was getting fuzzy at the edges. Tell him I'm proud of you. For choosing. For being his father. Tell him yourself. Juliet. Juliet. The darkness took her before she could answer. 2 months later. The garden was golden in late afternoon light. Autumn turning everything copper and amber. Juliet sat on a bench near the fountain. A book in her lap she wasn't really reading. Her hand absently traced the scar beneath her sweater, a habit she'd developed during recovery. The bullet had missed anything vital. Pure luck, the surgeon had said, or fate, depending on what you believed. She'd spent 3 weeks in a private medical facility. Vincent had brought Leo to visit every single day. At first, Leo had just stared at her, with those solemn gray eyes, his small hand holding hers, counting her heartbeats like he needed proof she was alive. By week 2, he was climbing carefully into the hospital bed to curl against her side. By week 3, he'd started trying to make her laugh with silly faces and drawings of stick figures defeating bad guys. The sound of barking pulled her from the memory. A golden retriever puppy came bounding around the corner, all paws and enthusiasm. Leo chased after it, laughing, actually laughing. The sound still surprised her every time, pure and bright and whole. "Got you!" Leo tagged the dog, who immediately tackled him into the grass. They rolled together, boy and puppy, both radiating joy. Juliet smiled. Leo had started talking 3 weeks ago. Just single words at first. Stay, please, juice. Then short sentences. Can we play? I'm hungry. I had a bad dream. Now he was nearly non-stop, making up for 6 months of silence with a flood of 5-year-old observations and questions. Jules, watch this. Leo threw a tennis ball. The puppy, who Vincent had named something dignified that Leo immediately changed to Rocket, chased it with more enthusiasm than skill. See, I'm teaching him fetch. You're doing great, sweetheart. Leo grinned and went back to his training session. Juliet watched, her chest warm with something she thought she'd lost forever. Purpose, belonging, home. Footsteps on the stone path. She knew without looking who it was. Vincent's presence had become familiar in the months since she'd signed that contract. The way he moved, the way the air shifted when he entered a space. He sat beside her on the bench, close enough that their shoulders touched. He'd changed since the warehouse. Still controlled, still powerful, but softer somehow, like he'd given himself permission to be human. "How are you feeling?" he asked. He asked every day, sometimes multiple times. "Good, stronger. The physical therapy is helping." "And the nightmares?" She glanced at him. Better. How did you know? Maggie hears you sometimes, when she does night rounds. Vincent's gray eyes studied her face. You should have told me. You have enough to worry about. You're what I worry about. You and Leo. He said it simply, a fact. Everything else is just noise. 2 months ago, that statement would have terrified her. Now, it just felt true. How did the meeting go? Vincent had been restructuring the family business, slowly moving legitimate. It was a process that would take years, carefully extracting from criminal operations while maintaining enough power that rivals didn't sense weakness. But he was doing it. For Leo. For the future. Good. Better than expected. The construction company acquisition went through. That's 12 more legitimate employees, 12 more families with legal income. He rubbed his face. Tired. Slow process. But happening. He was quiet for a moment. Cameron's trial starts next week. Federal prosecutors have everything they need. Witness testimony, financial records, everything. Juliet had read the news reports. Cameron had tried to bargain, had given up information on the Russo family, in exchange for a lighter sentence. 20 years instead of life. He'd be 50 when he got out, if he survived that long in prison. How do you feel about it? She asked. I don't know. He's my brother. Was my brother. I keep waiting to feel something other than empty when I think about him. Vincent's jaw tightened. Is that wrong? Should I feel more? I don't think there's a right way to feel when family betrays you. No, I suppose not. He looked at Leo, still playing with Rocket. He asks about Cameron sometimes. I tell him the truth, that Cameron made bad choices, that he hurt people, that he's going to be away for a long time. Leo accepts it. Kids are resilient like that. Leo's resilient because you gave him space to heal, and because you made the right choice. Vincent's hand found hers, threaded their fingers together. When had that become natural? When had his touch stopped being the Mafia boss and started being just Vincent? I made the right choice because you were there. If you haven't been, he stopped, started again. I would have killed him, proven him right, become exactly what he said I was. But you didn't. No, I didn't. His thumb traced circles on her palm. You gave me my son back, kept me from losing myself, took a bullet meant for me. I don't know how to repay that. Juliet turned to face him. You gave me a reason to keep going. You gave me a home, a family. You let me finish my degree. She'd completed her online nursing courses last month, had her diploma now, framed in her room. We're even. We're not even close to even. Vincent's free hand came up to cup her face. I'm in love with you. Have been for weeks. Maybe longer. That's not payment or gratitude. That's just truth. Her breath caught. They'd been circling this for weeks. Touches that lingered, looks that meant more than words. Nights when he'd sit with her after nightmares, just present, just there. But neither had said it out loud until now. Vincent, you don't have to say it back. I know this wasn't part of the contract. I know you didn't sign up for. She kissed him, cut off his words with her mouth on his. It was soft and careful and full of everything she hadn't known how to say. When she pulled back, his gray eyes were wide with surprise. I love you too, she whispered. I tried not to. This wasn't supposed to happen, but it did anyway. Vincent's smile was rare and precious. He kissed her again, deeper this time, his hand in her hair, hers gripping his shirt. They broke apart when Leo's voice cut through the moment. Does this mean Jules stays forever? They turned. Leo stood a few feet away, Rocket sitting beside him, both of them watching with identical expressions of hope. Vincent looked at Juliet, the question in his eyes clear. She thought about her studio apartment, empty now except for furniture she didn't need. Thought about the diner and past due bills and the life she'd been barely surviving. Thought about Emma and how she'd want her big sister to be happy, to live instead of just existing. She looked at Leo, at Vincent, at the mansion that had become home and the family that had become hers. Yeah, she said, her voice steady and sure. Forever sounds good. Leo whooped and ran to them. Vincent caught him, swinging him up between them. Leo wrapped one arm around his father's neck and reached for Juliet with the other. She stood, wincing slightly as her healing abdomen protested. and let Leo pull her close. The three of them stood there in the golden light, holding each other, a family built from broken pieces, imperfect and complicated and real. "Can we get ice cream to celebrate?" Leo asked. Vincent laughed, actually laughed. "Yeah, buddy, we can get ice cream. With chocolate sauce? Whatever you want." They walked toward the house together, Leo chattering about ice cream flavors and teaching Rocket tricks. Vincent's hand stayed in Juliet's, grounding and warm. As they reached the door, Juliet glanced back at the garden, the fountain, the bench where everything had changed, where she'd stopped being an employee and started being something more. A photograph caught her eye through the library window as they passed. Emma, the hospital photo she'd kept in her apartment. Vincent had it brought to the mansion, had it framed properly, and placed where Juliet could see it every day. In the reflection of the glass, she could see another photo beside it, a new one. Vincent, Leo, and Juliet, taken last week by Maggie, all three of them smiling. A family. "Thank you," Juliet whispered to Emma's image, "for teaching me that it's okay to keep living, to love again, to let myself be saved." The photograph didn't answer. It never did. But somehow Juliet felt her sister's approval anyway. Inside, Leo was already debating ice cream flavors with the enthusiasm only a 5-year-old could manage. Vincent was listening seriously, like this was a business negotiation. Rocket was begging shamelessly at their feet. Normal, chaotic, perfect. Juliet's phone buzzed, a message from Johns Hopkins. Her nursing license had been officially reinstated. She was qualified to work again, to save lives, to be the person she'd trained to become. Another message, from Bernie at the diner. "Heard you're doing good. Proud of you, kid." She smiled and tucked the phone away. That life felt like it belonged to someone else now, someone who'd been drowning, who'd forgotten how to hope. Vincent looked up from the great ice cream debate. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect." And it was. Not because life was simple or easy or safe. Vincent's world would always carry danger. The threat of old enemies, the weight of past choices, the slow process of building something legitimate from criminal foundations. But they'd face it together. The Mafia boss learning to be gentle, the broken girl learning to be whole, the silent boy learning to speak. A family forged in chaos and betrayal and love that refused to quit. Leo tugged her hand. "Jules, tell Dad that chocolate peanut butter is better than vanilla." Vincent argued. "Vanilla is a classic. Vanilla is boring." Juliet laughed and let herself be part of something bigger than survival. Let herself be happy. Outside, the sun set over the mansion, painting everything gold and crimson. Security guards patrolled. Somewhere in the city, Vincent's legitimate businesses operated. In a federal prison, Cameron waited for a trial that would seal his fate. But inside the kitchen, a small family argued about ice cream. A puppy begged for scraps. And a woman who thought she'd lost everything found she'd gained the world. Forever had just begun.